So summer is super duper here in Northern California when it's going to be 100 degrees today. And many of you live in places where it's going to be very hot and you're really concerned about how to take care of your plants. So let's talk about that today. So if you live in a place where it gets intermittently hot, and I mean over 90 degrees and up to 115, which is what we get several days over the summer where it'll be 90 or 97 or even up to like 112. But we don't have consistent days like that. We don't have every single day of the summer being 90. So our plants are fine. Our Sarracenia, flytraps, and temperate sundews all grow outdoors year round in that intermittent extreme heat, and they're totally fine. If you live somewhere like Arizona or even Bakersfield, California, sometimes even Sacramento, California, where it's consistently over like 95 degrees for like a week or two at a time or the whole entire summer, looking at you, Arizona, you're really going to want to add some safety factors for your plants. But if you live somewhere like we do, where it's just going to be 90s for a week, low 90s for a week, that's not a big deal. A couple of days up to 100, not a big deal. And so what we do, and here's what I recommend for anybody who has that intermittent high heat, make sure your plants are very well watered. So for my personal plants at home, if I know today it's going to be 97 degrees, last night, I watered everything in so heavily. My bogs in the big pots, I watered those in exceptionally heavily. I filled all the trays. And then this morning, before I left for work, I topped everybody off one more time. And then of course tonight when I go home, I'll give everybody a really good drink of water. So these plants, where they grow naturally, it would be extremely hot and very humid, and they would grow in these very boggy, wet soils. So as long as you make sure that they have access to a lot of water, intermittent heat is not going to be a big deal for them. You will see Sarracenia dry out, and they'll like dry down and wilt and fall over, and if that happens, that meant your plant did not have enough water. So that's the only really big problem you'll see in Sarracenia, is that wilt back. You might see burn, and that burn is not too big of a deal because remember that Sarracenia pitchers and traps and sundews, but all of those are just leaves, they're modified leaves. So if a few leaves get a little burn, so sundews will like burn right at the tip of like the thread leaf sundew, they'll get turned black in a really hot day sometimes. Fly traps, sometimes you'll see the trap edges all turn black and crispy. And then Sarracenia, you often see what we call nectar burn. So all along the lid of the plant, there is a sugary nectar that lures in the bugs. And in the summer, you can see this beautiful sparkly crystalline stuff on the edge. Well, that burns in high heat. And by burn, I mean, you'll see that the edge of the lid will turn kind of brown and sort of look crinkly and little brown and yellow spots. All of those things are normal, natural processes of these plants in the summer, and they aren't harmful. And remember, it's going to continue to put out new leaves over the summer, so it's totally okay if on a hot day you see a little bit of that burn. If you come out and your Sarracenia is completely wilted, if you come out and your flytrap is literally completely black into the ground, those are plants that got too hot and didn't have enough water, and that's when you might want to think about, maybe giving them more protection or more water the next time it's hot. But otherwise, if you're just seeing signs of moderate stress, that's totally normal built-in structures for these plants to handle high heat. And again, where they would grow naturally, it would be hot. So that's totally okay. If you live somewhere exceptionally hot or consistently in the high 90s to hundreds, consider putting up what's above me right here, shade cloth, 30% shade cloth. Or putting your plants somewhere that in the afternoon they're going to have a little protection from the sun. That's also really helpful for them. So places like Arizona, again, Bakersfield, California, Sacramento, California, those are areas where it is helpful to protect them from this super hot, consistent heat throughout the summer. And remember, water, water, water is your friend, and accept that nectar burn and a little bit of burn on the leaf tips is totally normal and okay. And if you have any more questions, be sure to post them below and I'm happy to answer them, or tell me your tips on how you protect your plants. The hard, careful balance is that you want to make sure they still get enough light, but also don't get too stressed out by the heat. So that's kind of what we're trying to achieve. All right, happy growing, and remember, you need to drink water too when it's this hot.